Hello, friends. I'm Spire Meteorologist James Van Fleet, and in today's edition of our Spire Weather and Climate video, we're not only addressing the winds that have returned to Southern California, but I think a very important piece of the story, when the winds are backing down, and not just for a few hours. We see in our high-resolution model several days, and we're going to talk about that. A quick touch on Arctic cold air coming from North America. We'll show you that. And then also just plant the seed of a potential Medicane in the making, or a very strong low pressure in the Mediterranean at the very least. We'll end with that. But first, quick update. I want to let you know, this is the week for the American Meteorological Society's annual conference. It's in New Orleans. Several of my colleagues are there this week. In fact, our general manager, Mike Iltz, is there. I believe he has a panel or discussion on Thursday. Also, Dr. Tom Gowan, our modeling lead, is there, and I believe he has a talk on Wednesday that he's a part of. But there is a booth there, so if you see Spire Weather and Climate, please stop by, say hello to some of my colleagues. I'd love to talk to you and just meet the other meteorologists that are out there at the conference this year. Let's dive in. Starting with Southern California, we're going to zoom in, of course, to the area of concern. What I have plotted up are wind gust and wind speeds. As we talk about this, I want to show you, though, the concern is the fact of the incredibly dry air that is sitting in place. In fact, as we roll this forward, you can see humidities in Southern California and Arizona through today in the 20% range, and will stay this way through much of the week. So as those winds are up, the humidity has not improved any to help us out in just providing some general moisture to help keep fires from starting in other areas. With that said, we talked about the winds, so let's get really low into here, Southern California and northern Mexico. And as we roll this animation through, you can see the Santa Ana winds are back. With the next couple of days, the highest winds look to actually be north and south of the LA metro, which helps us out clearly. The biggest winds, though, are up here on the northern fringes of the LA metro, up near Oxnard and Thousand Oaks, Ventura, and then on into Santa Barbara. But we do see those wind gusts between 50 and 70 miles per hour. Not quite the same setup that we had a week ago with the initial setup where we had high pressure offshore, low pressure to the southeast, and there was a convergence zone. This is more traditional Santa Ana winds coming straight off of the mountains and moving to the west out over the Pacific Ocean. But we continue with these gusty winds through Tuesday and through portions of Wednesday. Mainly, again, between LA and Santa Barbara, but also between Long Beach and, say, Irvine down here into getting into Orange County, essentially, in this region down here, with likely seeing those gusts staying more outside of the core LA metro. So there are some signs in this where we do see relief. Now, then I want to zoom out and show you, as of Thursday, right around, say, about 9 o'clock time frame that we'd be looking at Pacific time, the winds start to let go. And then as we get through the morning and midday, look at this. The winds are actually substantially lower, 10 to 15 mile per hour winds. And as I zoom out, this is what I was mentioning. So starting on Thursday, Friday, and at least through Saturday, we've got a break in the winds. So at the very least, about 72 hours before we see this returning once it gets started on Thursday. So there is some actual really good news, not just a little bit, but this is great news, honestly, that we will have several days of these lower winds for our firefighting efforts. Then I want to talk about an Arctic cold blast, as we promised, coming down out of the Arctic over Canada and into North America. And this is it right here, starting to move in, and it reaches pretty far into areas of the U.S. Still will be cold all the way down into Kansas City, but not like the cold we're going to see up in the Dakotas, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, but single-digit temperatures this weekend. Are we ready for that in Kansas, Missouri, and portions of New Mexico? Colorado, of course, you are used to that with the mountains. But look at this really cold air. I mean, we're talking temperatures around the Twin Cities, -12. That's the actual temperature, not the wind chill. -12 coming early Sunday morning for portions of the Dakotas, Montana, and definitely Minnesota and northern Wisconsin. And that cold air will slide to the east Getting into portions of New York, around the Delmarva, as well as Ohio, West Virginia, even in the Carolinas, we're talking single-digit temperatures around Charleston, around Raleigh, between 8 and 12 Fahrenheit. As we get into Wednesday morning on the 22nd, and then temperatures, even around New York City, we're likely hovering just a few degrees above 0 Fahrenheit for you, keeping in mind this isn't the Celsius scale I'm showing you. This is Fahrenheit. So 32 is actually the freezing temperature. So again, just to reiterate, because we jump all around the world and use the metric system often and standard system versus imperial in all of the cases. So just want to point out and call out again, this is Fahrenheit. So -9 degrees in portions north of Philadelphia here, central Pennsylvania, -11. That kind of cold. We are talking disruptions, keeping people safe and warm, but also this kind of cold, the impact it can have on pipes as well as operations. So not only do we have the cold starting late this week, this will be a long duration cold event that we are talking about coming this weekend and for the first half of next week. Now, one other thing I promised I want to show you. We will do more videos this week on that Arctic cold. So plenty more discussions coming, as well as we will come back to this in the next couple of days. As we take a look, you can see right here off of northern Africa, a low starts to develop around Thursday this week, and then starts to spin and hold steady before moving into northern portions of Italy and France. It doesn't look like it's going to last for days and days and days like a cutoff low would, but there are a couple of days here at the end of this week, Friday especially, where we are seeing winds incredibly high, around 52 miles per hour. But of course, I want to show you what that means for those of you in this part of the country, that around 22 to 25 meters per second. I will not be surprised at all to see between, say, Sardinia and mainland Italy, also up around the south of France, 22, 23 meter per second winds on Friday. So this will likely disrupt operations of the maritime world coming into the end of this week. So we're marking that. We'll be back with more content to talk about this and have a further discussion. In the meantime, hope you have a safe rest of your day, and I'll see you for a Tuesday edition tomorrow. Take care.